Hello and welcome to Culture Illiterate, a podcast with four friends overthink comic book movies. I'm one of your hosts, Jake, and when I wrote down this fun fact, I thought I was gonna kind of be in the vibe to go on a little mini rant, but now I'm really wind down, so I'm just gonna say my pet peeve is when people say casted. It's not a fucking word, it's just cast. Like Chris Evans was cast as the Human Torch before he was cast as Captain America. Like, if English is your second language, you get a pass. Otherwise, you sound dumb. Casted is not a fucking word. And with me are my friends and fellow co-hosts.
My name's Jason, and I was not expecting that from Jake. That was very aggressive. That kind of took me back. I love wiener dogs. That's my fun fact. I absolutely adore them. I think they're adorable. I love everything about them. I want to own one. I want to own several. They're so cute.
I'm Matt. My fun fact is that I function a smartphone like a 90-year-old man.
I love Matt so much.
Matt's a 90-year-old man.
That's funny, dude.
I'm Sean. My fun fact, I'm gonna also add to the dog fact that Jason started by saying that my favorite dog is corgis, and I would like to own many corgis. So,
oh my God.
That's plus one for the tiny-legged dogs.
I just saw a corgi on Saturday. I was hanging out with a corgi.
They look like such loaves. I want one.
He was cute. He had a cone.
You gotta tell us how big.
Sorry, excuse me. I just burped. Sorry. It had a good hiney. It also had a cone on its head, which was kind of funny. It was sad though, because he kept leaning down to sniff in the yard because I was outside, and just the whole cone would just press on the ground. He looked so dumb. He was just this long fluff ball with short legs and a fat ass with a cone on the ground.
Oh no.
But he was cute. He was cute.
Oh, his cone?
The cone of shame.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know if that's what you were knowing or if something went wrong. I'm in a state right now of being afraid that this something's gonna crash.
Matt's entire existence is crashing around him right now.
Exactly. Because I don't know if I know Sean looks in the outline, but I had written down, I actually had a dream about the podcast last night.
That's disturbing.
Kind of. But here's the thing. So you guys were all in it.
Jake, you are not going to believe this. I had a dream about
the
podcast recently.
I didn't fully have a dream about the podcast, but you'll see what I mean. So last night I had a dream. We were all in college together. And we formed a club, and it was kind of intended just to be the four of us, but then it got really huge because what the club was we were taking comic book movies and adapting them into four-person musicals.
Oh no. And
we did that, and it got really, really popular on campus, and we started selling out shows. There was a lot that went into it, but I had just a very, very vivid, emotionally investing. I woke up and it kind of you ever have one of those dreams that's so vivid and you get so emotionally involved in it that for the first half of your fucking day, you kind of almost feel a sense of heartbreak because you're out of that world. That's what happened to me.
Yeah, it's almost everything you know is a lie.
Instead of this it was the concept of this podcast, but instead of a podcast, it was live musical theater, and we were really good at it, and we were all in college together. It was intense, and I felt like I had to tell you guys that.
I hope we remade Rogers the Musical.
I think it was a combination of so we actually just hit 100 total subscribers on the podcast recently. So I think the relative success of that leaked into the dream with these musicals being successful. And then I think the fact that we basically kind of started it as a club on the lark and accidentally turned it into something bigger is I wrecked this movie Bottoms last week, and that kind of happens in that movie. So I think, and I was talking about that movie last night, and I think it all just kind of in my subconscious. I mean, I don't know how dreams work, but it weirdly affected me today, and I thought you guys would find that kind of funny. So I wanted to make sure I brought it up since we were recording.
Oh, speaking of how dreams work, I have I had a line I wanted to run past you guys.
Oh no,
a line?
Yeah.
So
okay, here it is. I always stay on the grind set call that the Sigma Freud.
Hated that. Hated everything
cringe.
about that.
I also hated it, by the
You're
way.
off the pod.
It was an ironic humor thing.
It was an
Well,
ironic.
wait, what was your dream about? You said you also had a podcast related
Oh,
to
that
you,
was
Jason?
I hear your dream, Jason.
I made that up. I was lying.
Oh man,
I
that's
just
that's the
I
secret.
thought it would
you-
make for good content.
My
Fair.
hopes were so high.
A little heartbroken, but fair.
My entire
Sorry, I'm
reality is
content
falling
brained.
around me.
So, do you guys want to just get right into this, or does anyone have anything else to add?
Well, wait. Do we have any Rex?
Well, you say so. That's what I'm. That's what I'm prompting.
I was gonna hope. I don't know.
Use your words.
Do I have a rec? I don't think I do. But does anybody have one? Because I don't want to talk about this movie.
I recommend dreaming about musicals with your buddies, even if you get a little sense of heartbreak in the morning.
I think
the
I
name of
did
my
have
debut
a
album.
rec, but I can't remember it, so I'm gonna bide time for a little while to see if I can remember it.
You could shout it out mid-episode if you want. No one will care.
That's true. I could do, especially with this movie that we're talking about. It's not exactly one for the ages.
We are going to stay tuned to the end, though. We are going to kind of do a bit of a retrospective on what we've watched so far. Matt will attempt to join that as well.
I'm not even going to attempt
But
it.
well, you can give your thought. You don't have to rank things, but you can give your thoughts on the experience so far.
I give up. I give up. I give up like how I give up on life.
Yikes. Well, anyway, but so we're going to talk about that at the end, but we're talking about Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer. Please, like I said, if you, Sean, think of anything, interject, but that's the movie we're talking about today. It's written by Don Payne, great name, Mark Frost, and John Turman, directed by Tim Story, and shot by Larry Blandford, Ian Grifford, Jessica Alba, Chris Evans, Michael Chiklis, Julian McMahon, and Kerry Washington all return from the first movie as Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, Human Torch, The Thing, Doctor Doom, and Alicia Masters. And then the movie adds Doug Jones and Lawrence Fishburne as the body and voice of Silver Surfer, respectively, and Andre Braugher as General Hager. So had we all, I know we talked a lot about like the nostalgia attached to the first Fantastic Four movie when we watched that, and how whether it was in the backseat of the car or on like the Fox television network as children. But did anyone have anything similar for this movie? Because I'd seen it, but I was not nearly as nostalgically attached as that first one.
I remember
I guess
this.
I was.
Oof. I remember this one a lot, and I remember this starting my hatred of like the amorphous blob villain that we always tend to get, or that became like a little bit of a trend after this movie.
Yeah, I know I saw it at a young age, and I've probably seen it, or at least parts of it, since then. But I, like Jake said, I don't have as clear of a memory or as positive of a memory of it as the previous Fantastic Four movie.
I did grow up watching this movie. In fact, I have more of a nostalgic connection with this movie than the last one. Although it's not saying much because it's not like they're exactly fond memories. I just remember watching them when I was younger.
All right. Well, let's just get right into it then. The movie starts with a mysterious meteor-like object entering Earth's atmosphere and tracing cosmic energy with it that causes fluxes, I can't speak tonight, in weather and power outages and creating mysterious craters in the earth. The government approaches Reed Richards to track the movements of the object. He and Susan Storm are preparing for their wedding amidst a huge media push and publicity. So Reed declines to help in front of Sue as the wedding's already been significantly delayed because of their lives as heroes. But he ends up helping in secret anyway. As the wedding begins, Reed's systems detect the phenomenon approaching New York City. Johnny Storm pursues the object and finds that silver humanoid, Jesus Christ, on a flying surfboard, also silver, and he confronts this Silver Surfer, but is overpowered. Later, when Susan tries to check on Johnny after becoming weakened, their powers switch. When they touch again, their powers revert back. Reed's examination of Johnny reveals that his exposure to the Surfer has set his molecular structure in a passive flux, allowing him to switch powers with his teammates through physical contact. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Sean already brought it up, and I'd love to hear Sean continue. Give us your real nitty-gritty thoughts on Cloud Galactus.
I fucking hate it. It's bad. It's so bad. It's not inspired. It's just garbage. I hate, like, I don't know if they were trying to be inspired and be like, we're going to make him an eldritch horror that lives in space as a giant space cloud. Isn't that scary? And, like, I'm not afraid of a space cloud, I guess, so it really doesn't work. I want Purple Man. I want big space Purple Man that eats planets and goes around as a weird purple man. I know in the comics that Galactus' whole thing is that he turns into the god of whatever race of people he's like, whatever planet the race of people see him as their god, and essentially he just eats them looking like that. But, like, I feel like this was a good movie where they didn't have to worry too much about being corny, so him being a weird space blob with no personality whatsoever, it's just so boring. Like, he's the main villain, and he's the amorphous end of the world that you get at almost every superhero movie. It irks me so much because it feels like this is really where it, like, started the whole, like, trend of, again, amorphous blob villain that means absolutely nothing, that has the name of something from the comics, but is really not anything, and it's so uninspired.
Yeah, and I think, like, one of the biggest issues with that is that, like, antagonists are supposed to be, in some sense, a concrete character or thing that is representing a greater idea, right? And when you don't really get that when Galactus kind of is a greater idea, in the sense that he's just a cloud and just a blob. Like, it's not, you don't get the personified villain that makes the story more meaningful.
He's just their amorphous end of the world that eats planets. I don't like
that. It makes it like it's like they're going for man versus man, but it's man versus nature.
I wanna relate to the villain a little bit too.
Yeah.
If anything, like, it doesn't have to, like, I either want to really hate this person or thing or whatever, or I want to be like, oh man, I'm kind of rooting for you a little bit because you're on the right track, but you're doing the wrong things.
Right,
but it's just...
It doesn't have either of that because it doesn't have a personality, because it's just a blob that eats things. So it's just like, there's no, like, moral quandary there. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing there.
That eliminates also the tragedy of, like, comic book Galactus is kind of, he's the fact that it's a being, that he is a being, he's cursed to basically be eternally hungry, and he doesn't just eat civilized planets because he's an asshole. He needs to consume planets with sentient life to, like, even briefly satiate this, like, all-encompassing hunger. So instead of, like, that, it's just a cloud. And a cloud is also so much less interesting to look at than a big purple blue tiki man.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's not much else to that.
Yeah, I just want to know what, like, in the process, did they just... my assumption has always been that they avoided Galactus because, like, it's a pretty goofy-looking character, I guess. If done right, I feel like he could look actually terrifying and menacing based on how we've seen the Celestials in the Eternals. But, like, Jesus, like, I don't know what they were going for.
You know, the other thing that reminds me of too is that it irks me because, like, I feel like the reasoning they didn't go for it probably was because it was too over the top and goofy. But also, like, these movies, the first one and this one, are pretty, like, corny, over the top, goofy movies.
I mean,
sure.
So it's like, it seems like that would be perfect for it to be like the cherry on top, you know? And they didn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'd argue that, like, the Silver Surfer is also a little bit goofy. I mean, he's cool in the end because he's just a silver man riding on a surfboard throughout space, and I think that's just pretty cool. But, like...
But when you really break it down, like, he's a silver guy on a silver surfboard.
Flying through space. That's kind of goofy.
It's goofy.
I'm really thinking about what Jason said, too, in regards to, like, a lot of superhero movies, like, these are characters that were, like, at their core created for children. And, like, don't get me wrong, I collect comic books, some indie stuff, but a lot of cape stuff. I'm always gonna love that. And, that genre can also be moved into spaces that are for, any age range. And a lot of the movies, maybe you'd argue, are more family or all ages or whatever you want to call them. But at their core, some of them, and especially the Tim Story Fantastic Four movies, are really aimed at like, their core audiences they needed to hit with 8 to 10-year-olds. And do you really think a child was gonna have an issue with like humanoid Galactus? Like, do you really think it's weird because everything else, like, it's a PG rated movie, so it's not even PG-13. It is very clearly geared towards a very young audience, and yet they seem to be worried about like adults not being able to deal with Galactus looking as he does in the comics. And it doesn't have to be one for one, but a Cloud.
Yeah, and it's the other, and yeah, again, we're talking about a movie where there's already like a group of 4 people that dress up in blue onesies that have 4s on the chest, and they're called the Thing, Human Torch, Mr. Fantastic, and he's stretchy and he says flame on, you know what I mean? Like, it's already like prime for like over the top comic bookiness, and it's doing that, but it's then not committing in that front.
I mean, sorry, were you about to say something, Matt? Oh, okay. I thought I heard a sound. On the bright side, I do think Silver Surfer is solid. Like, I mean, it's hard to mess up that look, but they don't. He looks good, and like the characterization's pretty solid as this kind of like somber existential guy. He looks good. I think Doug Jones and Lawrence Fishburne are both good casting. I kind of wish Doug Jones got to do the voice too. I'd love to see him get the chance to do that, though at this point he's probably like, by the time they do Silver Surfer again, he'll be like in his 70s. But I think that's solid as like him being this herald, and the way he's like quiet and has this like inherent gravitas to him for something as silly as a naked silver man on a surfboard flying.
Yeah, I do really like the Silver Surfer in this. I didn't know that Lawrence Fishburne did the voiceover until I watched it this time, and I was like, wow, this guy has a really soothing voice. He sounds really familiar. I wonder who it is. And I had to look it up to figure it out, and then I was like, oh, everything I saw was that like Doug Jones didn't even know that he wasn't going to be voicing Silver Surfer, so the whole time he was thinking he was gonna be the Silver Surfer throughout the whole thing, which makes it even sad. More disappointing because like apparently that happened twice to him, and the other time it happened was in Hellboy.
That sucks.
Wait, I didn't know he's not the voice of Abe in Hellboy. He's just the body.
Apparently, that was what I saw from that, was that the 2 times that it
didn't know that
actually happened was this in Hellboy.
Poor guy.
I'm gonna confirm that, but like, yeah, it seemed
they
like
did a similar thing in I think it was in Straight Outta Compton, where the guy who played Snoop Dogg like said all the lines, but then they had the real Snoop Dogg voice over it.
That's really weird.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't actually, for some reason, I haven't watched Straight Outta Compton yet.
I think that's the movie.
Strange.
It's either that or it's the movie about Tupac. Whatever that movie's called.
I just checked
I bet they didn't have Tupac do the voice.
Well, they didn't. That is correct.
They did. I just checked it now. Yeah, he did not voice Abe Sapien, which, man, that hurts.
That fucks with my childhood a little bit.
I love Abe.
Yeah, there's maybe in the future we'll cover Hellboy movies. There's a lot of carryover, I think, in Rise of the Silver Surfer from the first Fantastic Four movie, and some of that's good. Like, I still think like all of the cast of the Fantastic Four themselves are good in those roles, and their relationships are like pretty solid. But it also kind of means that this like poor man's Doctor Doom is back, which is pretty disappointing. It also means that like a lot of the stuff that doesn't work about it, like very anticlimactic action set pieces, is back. And unfortunately, one of the things that didn't return for me is there's not nearly as many like authentic, just like family moments. Like, I really like the stuff we saw in the first one, where you feel like, oh, these are people that are like stuck living together in the Baxter building, and they feel like a family because they bicker, but they mess with each other and they have fun and they love each other. There's like bits and pieces here, but unfortunately that didn't carry over, and what did was Doom.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is that one of the highlights were the few bits I felt that there were. I think there were a few moments definitely where we got that kind of family feel from them throughout the movie, but it definitely, I would agree, is not as much as the first. And And that's disappointing, but I would say one of the high points is when they do rarely go into that kind of... Sorry, I clicked a pen while I was talking, so that probably picked up on the mic. I realized that wasn't polite.
Who cares?
I was gonna say the same thing as what Jason said. Honestly, when they do have those relationships in there, it does kind of shine.
And it makes you miss it more, because it's like, when it's there, it's fantastic. They do that really well, and you wish they did it more.
I like the wouldn't want to find out she was killed in a rock slide joke that Johnny makes to Ben.
God, that was hilarious.
And then he says, I'll show you a rock slide, which basically means he said, I wouldn't want to find out she died having sex with you, and he said, I'll have sex with you.
I'll have sex with you.
That's a good point, Jason. You know what else, unfortunately, carried over? The naked Sue gag, because apparently we had to do that a third time in 2 movies.
I was literally...
also, again, Jake, this is a kid's movie.
Jake, you took the words out of my mouth. I was just about to say that right before you said that. I hate it. They did it twice in the first one. It wasn't funny either time. It was stupid both times. Then they did it fucking again in this one, and it's just as stupid.
Oh, and it hit even worse, because I remembered it in the first one, but I didn't remember that they did it again here, so I was like, you're fucking kidding me.
Yeah, I had the same thing.
I can only imagine, because, like, I know there was some stuff for this movie where Jessica Alba really did not like the director for this, because this was one of the movies that made her, like, quit for a while, because essentially, like, from what I understood was that, like, they were just trying to make her be pretty throughout the whole thing, and that was supposed to be just her character, was be pretty.
Which, first of all, you don't have to try for that when you cast Jessica Alba. You can just... that's just naturally there, and then you give her character agency, because she deserves that.
They actually kind of fail in that sense a little bit, because I'll get into this later, but she's the only person, I think, who even resembles having an arc out of the Fantastic Four.
I agree.
And one of the things that I find funny was that, like, one of the things that she quoted as happening was, like, we'll get to the scene when we get to the end of this, but, like, she was told, "Can you cry pretty?" Which to me is that's a little bit fucked up, but
agreed.
You know, I can understand
and our queen
why she
deserved
hated
better.
Why she hated
also,
being
like,
in this movie.
Still spray painting her white.
Yeah, that's weird as hell.
It's like, you know, if you wanted her to be white, you should have casted a blonde white actress.
Did you do that on purpose?
What did you say?
Did you do that on purpose? You just said casted.
No, I said cast a blonde.
Me and Sean both heard casted.
That is not what I heard.
We'll play it back later. Nah. We'll find out. The tape won't lie.
I did not say that.
We'll say. All right. Well, continuing on, apparently without Matt contributing, we're tracing the cosmic energy of the Surfer and rediscovers that a series of planets that the Surfer has visited were all previously destroyed. Reed determines that the next crater, what's wrong with me tonight, will appear in London, so the team travels there. They arrive too late to stop the crater, and the Thames drains into it. This also damages the London Eye, but the team manages to save it from collapsing. Jesus Christ. The military has the Fantastic Four reluctantly work with Victor Von Doom, who has come back from his, like, statuized state, and having been freed from that, and healed from his scarring thanks to a confrontation with the Surfer, where the Surfer blasted him with the power cosmic in Latveria, which we spend about maybe 1 minute in, disappointingly, because I remember because you'd think Latveria would be more than a cameo as Doom's country that he rules. Anyway, his body healed from the encounter there in the Russell Glacier, deducing that the Surfer's bore is the source of his power. Reed develops a pulse generator that will separate him from it. In the Black Forest, Susan is confronted by Silver Surfer. The military opens fire on the Surfer, which distracts him and allows the Fantastic Four to fire the pulse, separating the Surfer from his board. This happens after Susan has a bit of like a bonding moment with the Surfer. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about, is I do, in addition to kind of largely liking what's done with the Silver Surfer, is that includes his bond with Sue. I think that's portrayed well from Jessica Alba, as well as both Fishburne and Doug Jones. And it's a kind of a nice little moment they have in the forest, for what it's worth. But, I mean, that bond's, like, important to the movie, and it's, like, you know, not to poorly done. So I'll give it that if nothing else.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I don't have much
I
else.
like the surfer chase scenes are good too. Most of the like I'm trying my best to be positive here
Well,
because
no,
like
I
in
don't.
general I try to be. It's more fun. It's more pleasant for me. But yeah, I mean this is pretty. It's kind of just a dud. I don't really think a ton happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's terrible. It's just unremarkable.
Yeah, I think the movie is still like something I enjoy.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
But
Interesting.
dang, does it not like it just misses the mark on a lot of things. Like
It falls short a lot, I feel.
yeah, that's where it is for me. Is it just like tends to fall short in a lot of certain places where it like really shouldn't, and that's where it kind of
Like there's a lot of things about it that I kind of like and wish they would have done a little better so that I would have actually liked, you know?
I will give the movie the big positive of it feels like, you know, it speeds through everything. Like this movie felt short while I was watching it, which is what I wanted in the end. Whether that's
probably
a good
because
thing.
it was short.
Don't know if that's a good thing or not, but I wanted it to be short, and it was.
When it comes to these type of movies, it's always a good thing that it's short.
Fair. I mean, everything that's being said right now is true. It's short. That's a good thing. But it's also
It's
like
short. It gets to the
like,
point.
It's
It doesn't
not a
waste
good
another
thing that it's
30
a good
minutes of your
thing.
time. That, in
Exactly.
my opinion, gets an extra point, in my opinion.
Fair,
Because it's
Matt,
a
fair.
30 minutes of less torture. Although,
I mean, how do you...
to be totally honest, it's not that bad of a movie. It's just unremarkable, and my silence should speak to how this movie has stayed with me. And I watched this movie 2 hours ago, so
Yeah, I watched it yesterday, and it's like so faded from my memory.
Yeah.
that's the
How do you
thing.
guys-
That's the thing about it, though, is that the first movie I said that I liked it better, but then the more I think about it, the more I realized, oh, it's just that I don't really remember their first movie. I honestly don't remember anything that happened in the first movie, and so, whatever. It's not like anyone is gonna die because they don't know Matt Wong's opinion or remembers their opinion of Fantastic Four made from 2005, and which includes 2 nude scenes from Jessica Alba, which are cringy and super weird. So,
Hey, we have
you know what? Fuck it.
104 subs right now, Matt.
You know what? These
Cumulative
104 people
across
really need to
platform.
move on from their lives.
They care about Matt Wong, about your opinion.
They care
on
about
Tim
Matt
Story's
Wong.
Fantastic Four duology. I mean, I don't know. How about some of the secondary antagonistic
know.
forces? Because one of the
I
other
know.
things
Matt,
about Galactus...
Matt, I'm gonna tell you right now. One second. I'm gonna tell you right now. Matt Wong doesn't care about Matt Wong's opinion. In fact, I can't. I
respect
can't
that.
even find. I can't
Can't
even
take yourself too
find.
seriously.
I can't even like. I've been working on this list for this entire fucking podcast, and I still can't find 2 movies. And I'm staring at the list, and I took out my tablet and downloaded a letterbox on it just so I could look at the list while on the group chat while I'm making the list on Letterboxd, and I still can't complete it, and I'm over the top frustrated. I hate life.
See, it's kind of funny because I feel like Matt's mood tonight is a little bit emblematic of how disinterested we all feel in the movie we're talking about.
Oh
And-
no, I was in a much better mood before this.
Yeah, I know, but I'm talking currently. Anyway, I wanted to see what you all thought about like some of the secondary antagonistic forces. Because one of the other things about Galactus is he's not really in the movie. You see like a couple tendrils of the cloud in the opening when a planet gets blown up, and you don't even really actually get to see any like life destroyed on that planet, so it's not a very intimidating opening. But then you don't see the cloud until the very end of the movie, and I mean like the very end. So the bulk of the runtime is carried by the return of Doctor Doom, who for too much of it is no longer scarred and is just a guy, and is even worse. They at least left that character with some potential, as disappointing as he was, I think, in the first one, and they made him even worse in this. And then there's also General Hager and the U.S. military, which is like on the side of the Fantastic Four, obviously trying to prevent Galactus from eating Earth, but is also very like rude to read. I mean, but none of them, I don't know how y'all feel, but none of them do anything for me. They're really not a substitute for the actual main threat at hand.
Yeah,
They are all disinteresting. They all basically are just like a side B plot, and their only purpose is to elongate the Galactus plot because they for some reason don't want to make a giant monster that eats planets more interesting or be more involved with the plot, and so they try to reintroduce Doctor Doom, which is bad because he was bad in the first movie, and then they cast Captain Holt as the general, which is interesting to me. But unfortunately, he is very, very uninteresting. And in that regard, they casted the general very, very well. But still, it doesn't do well to my interest in this movie.
Good casting can only go so far. Yeah, I mean...
Here's the thing. It's only good casting because he's good at playing straight and boring characters.
Yes. What the fuck was I about to say? That's how much I don't care about this movie. I remember now. Yeah, Doom, I didn't need to come back. I didn't like him that much in the first one, and if they had done something more interesting with him, maybe my feelings would be different, but he wasn't necessary, and they didn't do anything, that tickled me in any way. For lack of a better term.
You anyway
so
you
it
want,
was
busy
just
boy.
kind of like, they brought back this villain who in theory is a great villain, but was executed poorly, and they're continuing to execute him poorly.
Yeah, Doom's whole
Again.
machination is to steal the surfboard and the power cosmic, which is like, a good story to keep that character involved, but he's still boring, and he's still not. They de-scar him. He's not in his costume for a lot of it. He's not ruling Latveria. He's not magical. He doesn't really have much of a personality. He just kind of is a villain, and it's not very interesting. And so now you've wasted. You've doubled down on Doom, on a disappointing Doom, while you're also disappointing with Galactus, who, like, if I can do a quick proposal. Next time we do Galactus, because I'm sure it'll happen again, could we maybe open it up with like an elongated 20-minute opening, seeing Zenla, the planet Silver Surfer's originally from, get destroyed, and seeing him make the deal with the Galactus to become about to be destroyed, and have him make the deal with Galactus to become the Herald? Because I think you could do a really cool pastiche with that on, obviously, Man of Steel and the first Superman movie have elongated openings with the destruction of Krypton. So that's something that's like very clear in the genre, and you can kind of play on that. And that would be interesting instead of what we have.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
And, man, it's just like, what the fuck is Doom doing here, man? Like, what, like, it's just, and then it's like...
extend the runtime. That's what he's there for. That's the only reason why he's there.
Yeah, but then it's like, alright, and then he's, like, working with them, and then he flips on them, like, ooh, big twist. Like...
I know.
Like, as if anyone...
Imagine not being double-crossed by a guy who just tried to take over the world.
Anyone whose brainstem is tied together with even, like, a fucking paperclip and scotch tape could have seen that coming. Like, his name is Von Doom.
Yep.
And they trusted him? Alright, pal.
Y'all ready to keep it moving?
No. Why not?
Because...
No.
Well, that's exactly because why not? The military imprisons the Silver Surfer in Siberia while they torture him for information, with the excuse that I did want to say one positive thing on the interaction with General Hager. Side note, I do like when Reed gets to be cocky for a minute, when he Hager calls him like a nerd, and he's like, yeah, and I'm like the most successful man on the world, and look who I'm marrying, and you need my help, so like, shut up, bitch.
So suck me, bitch.
Anyway, so they're torturing Silver Surfer. The Fantastic Four have Susan use her powers to privately speak with him, where she learns that he's serving Galactus, a cosmic entity which feeds on life-bearing planets to survive. His service to Galactus is what prevents his world from being destroyed, and the Silver Surfer's board is a homing beacon leading Galactus to Earth. Doom steals the board using a wrist pad device that he created in secret to gain control of the board and its powers, and escapes to China. The Fantastic Four rescue the Silver Surfer and pursue Doom in the Fantastic Car. Fantastic Car looks awesome. I'll give him that. Really glad that was included. Confronting him in Shanghai, because we need that international box office money, where he impales Sue with a metal spear made from cosmic energy. With the Surfer powerless, Johnny absorbs the combined powers of the whole Fantastic Four to battle Doom, disabling Doom's device, while Ben Grimm uses a nearby crane to knock Doom into the harbor. So, the battle with Doom, I think almost all of the action in these two movies is rather underwhelming. I do like the chase scenes with Silver Surfer, as I mentioned earlier, but other than that, everything's been kind of underwhelming is the only way I could describe it. But it's now we barely had the four of them work together in the finale of the first movie, and now in this movie, because we're using the power switching thing, which is like kind of fun for a while but gets run into the ground in my opinion, we have a situation where only one of the members is fight with all four of their powers is fighting Doctor Doom, and I feel like I shouldn't be watching Doctor Doom on Silver Surfer's board and be disinterested, but I am. So how do you guys feel about the battle with Doom and with the power switching?
I liked it.
I like the power switching idea, and like how it, I think it was a funny scene earlier in the movie when they discovered it and whatnot. And I think it was like a fine idea for like the final fight, but it was also like nothing about the final fight up to that point was that exciting, nor was that, to be completely honest. It had a few moments that were like, ooh, but like Jake said,
Ooh. What an emotion.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like there's but like I didn't.
Ooh.
I wasn't. Yeah, I was laying in bed watching the movie and I said ooh, but no, but there was like a couple decent moments, but like overall, like Jake said, I think both movies were definitely lacking in terms of the action and the overall fight scenes and the cooperation between the team. I think it was lacking.
Yeah, I agree, because I do like that their powers were combined, but it kind of kills the whole purpose of Fantastic Four, as they don't work as a team. Instead, they just give all their powers to Johnny, and he basically takes care of all the work, with the exception of Ben using a crane to hit Doom like a baseball bat with some steel beams, I'm pretty sure. And it all just ends up for naught. And surprise, surprise, he drowns. Dr. Doom drowns. Hopefully he stays dead, so I'd never have to see him again. And studios better not get any funny ideas thinking, oh, they love the old Fantastic Four movies. Let's bring back the 2005 Fantastic Four Doctor Doom back. Let's give him a cameo. I hope that never happens in my life.
Studios are way too happy with nostalgia that people don't actually have nostalgia for.
I know, dude. I'm pretty sure. Wasn't there like a thing where the guy from Superman Returns made a cameo in like some DC property? I don't know. Why would you do that? Who's nostalgic for Superman
Brandon Routh
Returns?
is really beloved as Superman. Like that's actually like makes a lot of sense. And you also he appeared.
No, I know that. I know he's good.
In the CW shows, so they just also had him appear as Superman because that movie has a flaw. Like, look, I think they make the dumb decisions a lot, but that one was cool.
I don't know. The thing is, like, he was a good Superman, but the movie was not good.
Yeah, but he is well liked, and like none of us liked that movie, and like it didn't do financially well. But like that movie has it's not ragged on the way that like we rag on it by the general populace.
All right. Well,
I'm just saying, and he was good, and he's there, and so he's an easy, cool thing, and he got to wear the fucking Kingdom Come Superman suit, and it looked so good. Okay, that's neither here nor there, though. I agree with you overall, Matt.
That is neither kingdom nor come.
Yeah, so the whole finale too also like takes place in like an alley in Shanghai. They very clearly like did not film in Shanghai because it's like one enclosed set that you don't even like fully see the sky of. It's a very bad location for your big finale.
It's very similar to the finale of the last movie. It just takes place in a city alleyway, except for it's Chinese this time, in which I question how Chinese it is.
This movie is the same but worse to me, because you're right. There's a lot of those negative similarities, but the few bright moments of the finale, like Johnny and the heat-seeking missile, or like the Thing crashing Dr. Doom through a building, or like the interaction he has with the ladies on the street, they're not there. They just kind of stand next to Sue's on the ground dead. Reed and Ben are just standing next to her powerless. Johnny fights Doom by himself in what I guess you guys were more positive on it than me, but what I thought was a very disappointing, not exciting fight. And Silver Surfer is also just standing there, but looking a little rusty now.
I, listen, am only very slightly more positive on the fight scene than you.
The climax results in Galactus finally arriving to Earth, and we actually finally see the cloud, and it's really ugly because it's just a big cloud in space. While Sue dies in Reed's arms, the Surfer regains control of his board and uses its power to revive Sue before flying into Galactus with help from Johnny. The conflict results in a massive blast of energy engulfing Galactus in a cosmic rift, seemingly destroying them both. Johnny's second exposure to the Surfer heals him, and he no longer switches powers with his teammates upon contact. Shortly after the events in Shanghai, Reed and Sue get married in Japan, only to be interrupted yet again by an alert that Venice is sinking into the sea. To Reed's delight, Sue has the wedding finished quickly before they race off along with Johnny and Ben to save the city. In a mid-credit scene, the seemingly lifeless Silver Surfer floats through space until his eyes open and his board races back to him. So, Sue's death, again, some degree of credit in that it's a little bit surprising because we hadn't really seen Silver Surfer heal before with his powers, but at the same time, that doesn't strike me as necessarily out of left field either. So, for me, it struck a decent balance of like surprising, but also not stupid. And not that I thought they were going to keep Sue dead, but like I kind of forgot how this had played out when I watched it as a kid and wasn't sure how they brought her back. But then I was like, oh, that makes sense. That said, everyone just kind of like the reaction seems to be like the reaction you'd have if you were like leaving your house and walk past the TV and there was like a pretty sad news story on that you kind of got the gist of walking by and you were like, ah, that's a bummer. Like the most important person in like all of their lives just died and the world's about to end and they're just kind of like, oh man, that sucks.
Yeah, maybe everybody had to cry pretty in this movie.
But they didn't even cry, dude.
I know, and that's their definition of crying. Because men don't cry,
did anyone
apparently.
else notice that? That like there's very little emotional reaction. Okay.
Oh yeah, no, there was like no.
But it's just like it's just carryover. It's just carryover from the last movie, as in like they seem emotionally stunted on pretty big reveals.
This is true,
and so it's not surprising. Maybe here's the thing. I actually didn't have as hard of a time as the last one, although that's not saying much. Maybe that's only because my expectations were like so low. I came to this movie like expecting to hate every single second of my life.
Yeah, that's a little baffling to me that you're better on this one than the first because like, oh, I'm well aware that I got nostalgia goggles on when it comes to 2005's Fantastic Four, but I feel like there's a lot more to like Ben's issues with his wife, his fiance leaving him upon seeing him, and then his self-hatred and like the conversation he has with Victor in the diner, or like arguments between Reed and Sue. Like it's not like amazing, but I feel like there's a lot more there to be invested in than there is in like a main character dying in this movie. And it's just everything. I think you said the word stunted. That may be like the one word that describes this best because everything's kind of like that. The confrontation with Galactus is stunted. It's like kind of a neat little full circle thing when Johnny helps Silver Surfer get there and like pushes board forward. But then like Silver Surfer T-poses and glows, and then there's like an explosion, and then it's over. And that's all it took to defeat Galactus was Silver Surfer just deciding to.
I mean, all it does is just empower the divinity of the T-pose, the almighty T-pose. Everyone knows how amazing it is, and this movie just enforces that. But that's really it. That's really the only good thing that came from that final confrontation with Galactus, because it's not that interesting to see a final fight between a silver man riding a surfboard surfing into a giant cloud. It would be more fun if he was surfing those clouds because they look like waves sometimes. So I wish they could have fun with that.
You're killing me, Matt, because that sounds so good.
See, I've been staring at this list for a while, and I saw like the 1960s Batman. And I was just thinking to myself, oh my gosh. I remember times in which I enjoyed watching movies, and that just made me want to have fun. I want fun so bad. My life is miserable.
So, Jesus. Sean and Jason, I mean, do you have... I don't know what there even is to say about Galactus and this I don't know if you could call it a fight, but do you guys have anything about Cloud and then Light and then no Cloud?
I rewinded the movie because I thought I missed something.
Rewound, some people say?
Rewinded.
Are you gonna try to convince me that you actually said rewound?
No, I said rewinded, and I meant rewinded.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I mean, just there's like something like Galactus. There's this like existential terror about, and also obviously you get into stuff like climate change. There's a lot of obvious symbolism you can throw in there, and it has always been in there. But there's this existential terror about just the world ending from this thing that you can't really theoretically stop. But Galactus isn't shown, and because there's not even really much conflict between the four themselves, you don't feel like if you had them collapsing as a family at the same time this looming threat was here, that'd be fine. But they're all more childish, I think, and act less natural than the first. And like the main conflict, I guess, is that like Johnny and Ben are kind of mad that Reed and Sue don't want to live with them after getting married, which like duh. But also they bring that up once and never again. So it's kind of just like the movie's just a series of like Reed poorly explaining made up science without real tension or stakes. And considering that they remove Galactus being a character, as we've talked about ad nauseum, the force of nature needs to feel omnipresent and threatening, but he's just absent for most of the movie, and there's nothing else to fill that hole, like we talked about with like the secondary antagonist being nothing too.
I'll give them the credit of when they show the space cloud and he starts to glow. You can see the outline of what Galactus would be shaped like.
Don't,
faintly.
Sean. Don't you dare give them credit
So
for that.
faintly. Yeah,
Faintly.
this is still, I think, maybe the worst example we've ever gotten. Maybe I'm forgetting something that we'll watch in the future of taking cool, interesting, unique comic villain and reducing them to like the first we had, or previously we had, turning the Phoenix Force into a mental illness, and now we have turning cosmic deity force of nature into Cloud.
Hell yeah.
Clouds.
That's a
I like that there's a wedding. More superhero movies need weddings. Big superhero weddings getting interrupted by chaos is a really fun like genre trope in the comics. They should do that more. So that was nice, I guess.
You love weddings,
That's
Good
only
don't
Stanley
if
you?
they
cameo
want
in
to
the
change
first
the
part of the
status
wedding.
quo, though.
Jake just likes love, doesn't he?
I do like love. Yes, I'm a
Yeah,
romantic.
it's kind of disgusting.
Gay.
It's gross.
All right. I want to go over character arcs real quick before we give final thoughts, or in this case,
There
Lack
were
lack of
character
thereof.
arcs.
Exactly, the lack of character. I talked about it before, mentioned it before. Sue's the closest to having an arc because she goes from really being worried about how she can square her life, marrying Reed, and her family life with being a superhero and wanting a normal life, kind of. And by the end of the movie, she's accepted and is happy with where she's going, seen by her like wanting to finish the marriage real quick and run off to save Venice. But we don't really see like why or how that happens. She just kind of starts as upset / worried about that element and then ends the movie not anymore. But I don't really know why. Other than that, they kind of allude to Johnny being lonely once with Reed and Sue getting married and Ben and Alicia happy together, but then they promptly never bring it up again. Everyone's static in the movie completely, pretty much. I mean, I guess Sue changes, but we don't really get much in the way of how. Doom's static. Silver Surfer changes. I guess Silver Surfer has an arc, sort of. Yeah. Mid credit seems decent. I don't know. You guys have anything else to say?
I don't. I just don't want to give this movie any kind of credit because it doesn't really deserve any.
All right. If you're cool with it, let's final thought it then.
No.
I mean, I don't recommend it. It's not like the most miserable experience, but it's just very dull. It's very bland, and not much happens in terms of the characters. They don't really get arcs. Not much happens in terms of Galactus or Doom. Or the low light for me is obviously there's Galactus, but in an effort to cut off us going 4 for 4 on that, I'll say it's the fact that nobody has a character arc. And I think if you have like 4 main characters plus Silver Surfer plus the General plus Doom, and they're all just this like essentially the same at the end, minus changes in Silver Surfer and Sue, but Sue's are largely just kind of happen. It leaves you very unsatisfied with the movie. when it's not even like it kept you that entertained in the meantime, so it doesn't stick with you and you forget about it. The best part is Silver Surfer. The chase scenes are solid. He looks cool. Two good castings in one there with Doug Jones and Lawrence Fishburne, and he is the only character that feels like a character. Wasted in a bad movie, but not totally wasted on the portrayal, I think. But yeah, I don't recommend it. There's worse times, but why would you spend a half hour watching something you're gonna forget?
So basically, like the last movie.
An hour and a half, I mean.
It's basically what happened to the last movie.
No, I quite liked the last movie and gave it a recommendation.
I don't remember if I gave a recommendation or not.
You were borderline leaning towards no, but you were a lot more positive on it than you've been tonight. It has clearly aged poorly for you.
Then maybe this whole listing has really soured my mood, because I am not in a good mood anymore.
Okay, well, what about the rest of you guys? Your usual wrap-ups for this.
I would recommend it if you saw the first one, because I didn't hate this movie. I thought it was enjoyable to just watch, but there's not much to it. But if you watched the first one and enjoyed it, you might as well. It's fine. My favorite part was, I think, the scene where they first discover, when they're first talking about Johnny switching powers and he and Ben switch powers and he gets all big and chunky, because I think it's funny. My least favorite thing is the fact that they triple down on the shitty Jessica Alba naked joke. It's just stupid. That's all.
A lot of creepy Jessica Alba fans were born that day. We could say that for sure.
So I
Unfortunately.
guess I'll end it off with
I don't think, did Matt give thoughts?
Did Matt
final thoughts?
No.
Not that you can't go next, but I don't think you're ending.
No,
I
thought Matt did, but I guess I was just listening to Matt complain more.
Yeah, it was.
Well, that's what happened.
I'll let Matt go.
It was exactly what happened.
Matt, you can go.
All right, Matt.
I don't recommend this movie.
High
Galactus
points, low
was stupid. How many points?
I said high points, low points.
How many points?
What's your high point? What's your low point? Favorite, least favorite? You know, we do this every time.
Okay. High point. Don't remember them. Low point. Galactus.
Make it your own, buddy. Okay, make it your own. Sean.
I thought Matt didn't finish.
I finished.
Oh god. All right. So I think I'd do the same thing as Jason, where I'd recommend it if you've seen the previous movie. This one's, I think, for what is essentially an hour and a half, it's like enjoyable enough to put on in the background. Otherwise, the more I try to pay attention to it, the more I want to scrutinize it, the more I wish it didn't exist. High point, I like the way Silver Surfer is cool. Low point, fuck you, it's Galactus, fuck him. I hate him. It's stupid goddamn cloud.
All right.
And the worst part is that's the last. I don't think we ever got another big screen depiction of Galactus ever since then.
We will eventually, though. And knock on wood, it can't be worse.
You can.
Don't jinx it. I know the likelihood of you being right is high, especially with the MCU. But
that's why I said knock on wood. Well, okay. On a more positive note, maybe not for Matt, but for me, I wanted to, like we said earlier, kind of look back at the podcast so far, where this is episode 36, 37, if you're counting the intro episode, that's like 20 minutes, but we called episode 0. We've covered 36 movies, 37 counting both cuts of Superman 2, and, I mean, for myself, overall, this has been a lot of fun for me, getting to do this with you guys, and I think it's an interesting way to look at a genre that's largely just fun, but kind of see how it evolved. But does anyone really want to... Does anyone have... I guess Matt doesn't. Rankings or like just kind of tiers or groupings of the movies we've watched so far to like that kind of like get their... That you've like... I'm interested in seeing like what you've noticed about your taste in these things so far. In that regard.
Yeah. I took my ranking from the last time we ranked them and created a tier list based on that, if you want me to share that.
If you'd like to, go for it.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what you're asking, right? I didn't do my homework for
Well,
nothing.
yeah, I know, but
Am I getting credit
yeah,
for
but
this?
I mean, you can verbalize it
Is
however you
this
want to
going in the
verbalize it.
grade
Is my
book?
point. We can post these. We can post these too if anyone wants. We can post them on the socials. I'll probably do that if I remember when this comes out.
Alright, well, whatever, Jake. So, alright, so my top tier, my S tier, so to speak, which was initially my top four of Batman Returns, Batman 1989, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, and Superman. I added Spider-Man and Spider-Man 3 into that tier. Spider-Man 3, I will note that there is some nostalgia factor there, but fuck you, I don't care, because I love that movie. Then the tier below that was previously numbers 5 through 7, Blade, both versions of Superman 2, Donner, and then Theater. I added Batman Begins and Spider-Man 2 to that tier. Then the tier below that, 8 through 10, Batman 66, Batman and Robin, Batman Forever. Also adding to that tier is X-Men, Blade 2, Daredevil, X2, Punisher, Fantastic Four, Ghost Rider, and Fantastic Four 2. Then below that, which was 11 through 13, Howard the Duck, The Return of Swamp Thing, and Superman 3. I added Hulk, Constantine, X-Men Last Stand, and Blade Trinity. Constantine I almost put the tier above, so that one is kind of on the cusp, because it's at the very least like the high end of that tier, if that makes sense. And the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm considering bumping it up. But anywho, and then the bottom tier, which was Superman 3 and the Mole Man, Superman and the Mole Man, not Superman 3. I read the and sign as a 3. Swamp Thing, Supergirl, and Superman 4 and Steel, and then coming to that tier is some dog shit in the form of Superman Returns, Catwoman, and Elektra. Because, it was just so boring. Like, it was just so...
Boring.
Nothing... It did nothing, And it felt...
No,
it felt like it was 4 hours long when I was watching it. So...
I got
So
you.
that's why I put it there. Even though I can conceivably see why someone might like it, I personally really, really dislike it.
Okay. I mean, I get where you're coming from. I'll do mine real quick. I want to ask other like follow-up questions to you and to everyone, but I figured we might as well just like go through this first to like kind of lay the groundwork. The order for quick as I rattle these off, I'm gonna say them in order of bottom to top movie overall, but I'm gonna group them into tiers. But if you care enough for some reason, the order I say them is how I feel about them. But these things are awful, and I see almost no or no redeeming qualities in them. Is Catwoman, Supergirl, Elektra, Swamp Thing, Steel, and Superman 3. Then I kind of get into I think these are bad, but there's some degree of entertainment to be had. Is Howard the Duck, Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, Superman 4: The Quest for Peace, Ghost Rider, X-Men: The Last Stand, Superman Returns, Blade Trinity. Then there's 3 that I have put in that I don't like them, but I wouldn't judge you if you said you did. Constantine, Superman and the Mole Man, Daredevil. Then, in a tier of its own, because I think it refuses to be classified and I wouldn't really know where I could possibly put it, is Return of the Swamp Thing. And I just call that tier Return of the Swamp Thing. Then I have the good, but like not like, but like kind of like bottom tier good. Like I would still say they're good. Definitely recommend them. Is Hulk, Punisher, Fantastic Four from 2005, Blade 2, and then like kind of almost bordering that. And the next tier for me is Spider-Man 2. As we get into movies that I just think are outright just good, just real solid, definite good. Spider-Man 3, X-Men 2, Batman Forever, X-Men. Chords like very good, I'm saying Batman and Robin, Batman 1966, Superman 2 the theatrical cut, Superman the movie, Superman 2 the Donner cut, and then we're getting into like elite level, which is Blade, Batman, Batman Begins, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Batman Returns, and the first Spider-Man movie. I do want to note kind of breaking down outside of the tiers, one thing real quick is that there's a handful of movies I would say, even if you do not like comic book movies, superhero movies, I think if you appreciate film to any degree, then they're worth watching just for the impact they had on culture and on film as a medium. And that's, do you think 2002's Spider-Man has that? I think Batman 1989 has that. I don't know if I'd say it's super influential, but just sheer quality, I'm saying Mask of the Phantasm. And then I would also say the original 1978 Superman the movie is a must watch, regardless of, again, if you're into this type of stuff or not.
I guess I'll go next because Matt probably isn't prepared.
Thanks, Sean.
Matt, if you don't have a full list, I don't care, as long as you say something.
I think
I do have a full list. I just don't remember what the order was before it got erased, and I don't have good memory.
I'm gonna mention some things, and then I'm just gonna speed through the full list because I don't really have it set in tiers. But like some of the things I'm more surprised by are like my top 5 I didn't expect, with like Spider-Man, Batman Returns, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, and like Blade of all things. Those are like my top 5 so far, which I have a lot of I wasn't expecting a lot of the like origin movies to be at the top, which is impressive, and to also see like Batman Returns on there is interesting. I wasn't expecting to like that as much as I did. It ended up being at the top. Things that I have that are interesting at the bottom is my bottom is Catwoman and not Steel. That I'm kind of impressed by. So yeah, my full list, I'm gonna go from top to bottom. Like I said, Spider-Man, Batman Returns, Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Blade, Batman 1966, Superman 1978, Superman 2 but the Donner cut, Superman 2 but not the Donner cut, Spider-Man 2, Batman Begins, Blade 2, Spider-Man 3, Batman and Robin X2, X-Men, Batman Forever, Fantastic Four, The Punisher, Ghost Rider, Constantine. I'm surprised that I have Constantine lower, but I just find Ghost Rider and The Punisher much more enjoyable times. Howard the Duck, Blade Trinity, Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, Daredevil, The Return of Swamp Thing, Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, Hulk, Superman Returns, Superman and the Mole Men. Oh god, that's going back. Superman 3, Supergirl, X-Men The Last Stand, Swamp Thing, Elektra, Steel, and Last Catwoman. Jesus Christ. Some of these I can barely remember watching. Like, Superman and the Mole Men was like the first one we did, and damn, that was a while ago.
Yep, I guess we're down to me then. Alright.
That would be the case. Surprise, there's a fifth host.
Might as well just list them down then. Might as well start from the bottom. So my bottom is Catwoman. Unsurprisingly, that movie's god-awful. I hate it. Next is Steel. There's a reason why Shaquille O'Neal is only good at portraying sellouts on screen. I hated it. Supergirl, that was one of the most anguishing experiences I had, and that was when all of you were here watching it with me, and even that couldn't really improve the experience. That's how bad it was. I hated it. Elektra, Jennifer Garner shouldn't portray anything else other than mothers, so I hated it. Superman 3, I don't remember anything. I just remember hating it. Next is Howard the Duck. I just remember duck titties. I didn't really like it. Daredevil. Don't remember much about it. I remember that one dumb seesaw fight. I didn't like it. Then in Superman 4, I didn't like it. Swamp Thing. There was one inner meme or inner joke that happened. Remember that roaring scene that had like the perfect comedic timing?
Yes.
And it was 100% unintentional. That has maybe elevated this movie more than it really should have, but because of that, it's above the rest of these movies, and I don't hate it as much. Batman Robin, I don't really like it, but it's kind of fun and it's sort of memorable, so I give it a pass. Blade Trinity, I put it above Batman Robin, but I honestly don't remember anything about it. X-Men Last Stand, honestly, I'm going to put that lower because I did not like that movie. Hulk, I remember liking some things about it, but overall, not a memorable experience. Return of the Swamp Thing, that movie was weird. But because of that, and because I wasn't totally miserable, I put it above the rest of all the other movies. Next is Silver Surfer. Honestly, it's still contemplating whether to put it lower or not. Then we get to like the halfway point, as in like movies I start to not hate, which is Constantine, which I feel like is very appropriate because the Constantine is like the very definition of like I don't know, perfectly balanced. It's not good, it's not bad, it's like perfectly in between. So I felt like it was appropriate to make it my like gateway into movies I sort of like. So Superman Returns, it was boring, but I wasn't miserable. Fantastic Four, I may change that because I'm having trouble remembering anything about it. The Punisher has had a few good scenes. Batman Forever, that was fun, I liked it. Ghost Rider, goes without saying, it's like an hour and a half of Nicolas Cage with a really bad southern accent, so that goes without saying. And now this is going to be a little controversial because I have Superman the Mole Man here. Superman the Mole Man is interesting, but I feel like I'm more interested about how it's like the first ever portrayal of a superhero on the big screen. I just have like a lot of respect for it, and so I may have it too high for a lot of people's tastes, but because I was fascinated by it. It's like watching like a silent film, you know? A lot of them are not really, let's just say, like entertaining for modern audiences, but viewing it through like a historical lens definitely can give you like a lot more appreciation for it, and that's how I view Superman. Next, I have movies I like. So Blade 2 I liked, even though I don't remember much about it. Spider-Man 3 was entertaining. I definitely liked it a lot more than I remembered. Then I have X-Men 1. Solid movie. Batman. This is the 1960s Batman. Yes, 1960s Batman. It's just a fun time. Honestly, I have very fond memories of it. That movie has ungodly amounts of horniness, and it just adds to the camp. And I'm not sure if that means that more movies should be horny or not. Definitely not how Fantastic Four went its way to portray horniness, but who knows. X-Men 2, I think this just has a lot of nostalgia. I have a lot of nostalgia for X-Men 2. I really like this movie. And rewatching it, and the fact that it's good, kind of just enforces that. Now I have the movies that I really like. Blade was just a fun time. Honestly, I'm not sure, like, I'm very surprised that the director hasn't really directed anything else, because Blade 1 is actually very well shot. It is a lot of fun, has really good action. Next we get to Batman Begins. I'm sure I don't need to explain how Batman Begins is a good movie, especially with like all the Christopher Nolan dick suckers out there. They probably explained it enough, so I'm not going to get into it anymore. There's Superman 2, and then Superman 2. Classic. It's a classic. Same thing with the next movie, Batman. 1989's Batman. Michael Keaton's Batman is an absolute classic, and I absolutely love it. Batman Mask of the Phantasm. Amazing movie. It is probably objectively like the best Batman movie we've ever seen on the big screen. I do have one over it, but that's more due to personal preference. And if you have Mask of the Phantasm as your favorite Batman movie of all time, I have no judgment whatsoever. I think it's very much an amazing movie, and it's not talked about much. But that's unfortunate. And it's probably mostly due to the fact that it's animation, and animation doesn't get respect. Superman, the first Superman, another classic. Christopher Reeve Superman is amazing. Everything about that movie is amazing. The ending's a little head-scratching, but you know what? The rest of the movie is so good that you give it a pass. Batman Returns. I love Batman Returns. I love how dark it is. I love how they take the story into just much darker themes. And it has aged so well, and I'm so sad we didn't get a third one. I didn't get a third Michael Keaton Batman movie. Superman 2, the Donner Cut. I think the Donner Cut is a lot better than Superman 2, even though there aren't that many changes. There are a few key differences, such as like the beginning of, I think it was like Zod's imprisonment. I think that was very good, and we saw more of the destruction of Krypton. I think that was very good as well. And unsurprisingly, If you've listened to our podcast, my top 2 movies are Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2. Honestly, you could switch them both because I love Spider-Man 2. I loved it ever since I watched it in theaters during its theatrical release, and Spider-Man 1 ended up being like a much better movie than I anticipated, and rewatching it, it just increased my love for it, and so now it's almost on par with Spider-Man 2. But Spider-Man 2 gets because of that nostalgia factor, gets that edge, so it's number 1. But that's it. That's my list.
I want to try to keep
that
this
took me like 20 minutes to make.
Sort of brief. I want to is there anything you guys have noticed in terms of trends of what you like, or trends that either trends that you like, trends that you don't like, or just trends within like the way these movies are made and in the genre? Like for myself, obviously this is like kind of a nothing statement, but I'm very interested to look at going forward what happens with authorial voice with directors because the stuff that stands out is the Burton movies, the Raimi movies, even the Schumacher movies, whether even if you hate them, you remember them. Same thing with like Ang Lee's Hulk, love it or hate it, you're going to remember that. And the reason we chose now to kind of look back is because we're entering the cinematic universe era. Next movie we cover is Iron Man, the start of the MCU. And with that, there is a lot that's going to end up being talked about, I'm sure, by us about, do we still see directorial intent in these, or do they become much more mass manufactured? Not that there wasn't any ones that already exist like that, like Catwoman or Elektra. But for me, that's what I'm looking at going forward, is how have we been heading in terms of like we started strong. We've kind of ebbed and flowed starting strong with things like Donner's Superman, but then he gets kicked off and the Lester stuff isn't as good. And then you have Burton and he gets kicked off for having too strong of a voice. And I personally still enjoy the Schumacher stuff and think his voice is there. But then you go from that to Steel, and like it kind of goes all over. So I'm going to, like, with new perspective, I think, be interested to see how that continues to evolve. I also just wanted to note that, like, 4 of my top 5 movies are Batman, and the lowest ranked Batman movie I have is 13, so clearly I have a bias to Batman, though Spider-Man is still my favorite character and still my number 1 movie.
Because Batman rips.
The other thing that I think will be interesting is just seeing what characters get made. For myself, that's what I kind of look forward to, because obviously you start with like Batman and Superman and Spider-Man and X-Men, but we are slowly getting slightly more weird characters, though often those characters like Blade were not pushed as comic book characters and they're getting adapted, so I'm intrigued to see like how kind of that evolves, again with like the perspective of coming through it this way. And lastly, just what tropes get fixed. I hate how many villains have been killed off unnecessarily, and when does that get better? When does that get worse? We've talked a lot today about, the removal of comic booky villains like Galactus and Phoenix. When does that get fixed and when does that get worse? So, like, personally for myself, those are the things I'm kind of intrigued by from the watch through so far, because those are stuff that the genre I think hasn't figured out. But I'm also probably going to miss the days of, I don't think we're going to get, I know I was the only one who really liked it, but we're not going to get anything. I don't know that we're going to get something as ambitious as Ang Lee's Hulk again, or even Burton's
probably
Batman.
not. No, we're probably not.
So
we're not really going to get anything that's relatively dark and doesn't appeal to the most broad market, unfortunately.
I think, to be honest, that what I see going forward, like with some of the movies coming, not like the early cinematic universe stuff, because I really like a lot of that stuff, but as it gets deeper, it kind of answers the question that Johnny asked in Fantastic Four 2. What's your problem with capitalism? That question will be answered within this podcast when we talk about
going with that.
Why is that the thing that you remember from this movie?
Because when the second he said it, I was like, oh, I got a list, bud.
When he said that too, I giggled a little bit. Oh God. I think the main thing I really want to get an idea of, and I think I'll be able to get a good idea of, is when does, like, the voice of the director kind of get drowned out by the errant capitalism that is the to be comic book universes that will soon start to come out of this, because like I feel like the beginning of the MCU, it still had a voice, it still had like its own charm to it, until it like became more of a mass produced kind of thing where there was a goal that they had in mind that they had to reach. So I think that's going to be an interesting, I want to be able to like pinpoint where we kind of see that start to turn, where we see the wheels start to turn and it becomes more of a machine than it does an art form. And that's one of the things I'll give it credit for looking back at this. While there's like a massive amount of duds in this one, I think there are some movies that like do genuinely shine more than I expected.
Yeah, I can kind of agree to that. The thing about like this era of movies is that even some of the bad ones do have some kind of visual identity, and so that does give them some, like, they basically makes them more memorable. And then as we start to get like further along through like the decade and into the 20th century, it seems like these movies are getting like rarer and rarer, and we're just getting more into like the realism arc, you know, like where all color is saturated, everything is black and leathery, everything is colored piss yellow or like gray. Like, I don't know. What? Sorry, my cat's meowing.
Fine.
But anyway,
how do you guys feel?
like,
Oh, sorry. Go, Matt.
I lost my train of thought, and it's your fault.
No, it's your cat's fault. I mean, how's the experience been overall for you guys? Like, for like not just in terms of viewing the movies, but like for me, I feel like I look back and I listen to all our episodes. I feel like we've really all been gotten better at finding our voice in terms of not just how we feel about these movies, but why we feel that way. And as well as for me, it's been a fun bonding experience. I really look forward to chatting about this shit with you guys and like hearing what you have to say, because it is not often at all that you guys surprise me with something that I haven't thought of, or just a take that I just, even if I don't agree with it, just comes out of left field, and it's so fun to think about. So I think this has been interesting just to see, one, how the genre, interesting for me as how the genre evolved, but also interesting how our opinions on it are kind of evolving, because I don't know that I feel the same way about things that I thought I would, or that sometimes there's movies that I feel like if I watched it a while ago, I wouldn't have thought the same.
Yeah, there's definitely been some surprises so far. Like, not even like there's been a lot of movies that like I was expecting to like when I rewatched it for this, but I liked it even more. It was like the primary surprise. Like, I remember, and I think I said it during the episode, but I remember Spider-Man, like, I hadn't watched that in years, and that movie I loved a lot more than I expected to upon rewatch. So I think that's been my main takeaway, is kind of, sometimes just because I was a child when I enjoyed something doesn't mean that that's why I enjoyed it, I guess. I also think I've found a knack for strange analogies on this podcast. Like when I said,
have.
And I didn't know, it's been unintentional. I didn't know I had that knack until I started doing this. But the one that I always think of is that I said I could put on like a fucking top hat or something and I'd be more entertaining than the movie.
Oh, I was thinking if you said a movie tastes like Splinters, bitch, at one point.
Oh yeah, that was a good one. Yeah, that's another thing I've noticed.
I just kind of want to reflect on like what Sean said earlier about going into like an era in which more visionaries are going to be I don't know, how should I say this? It's going to be interesting going into like the next era of comic book movies that are, I want to say oversaturated, because that's not fair, but movies that don't seem to have like a central vision, you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, definitely. That they're an ad for the next movie, not their own movie.
Exactly. They're 3-hour trailers.
I mean, do you guys have any like peaks or valleys either too? Because like I just wanted to recap. Like I'm looking at the release order list right now for what we've gone through, and man, that stretch of Swamp Thing, Superman 3, Supergirl, Howard the Duck, Superman 4, Return to the Swamp Thing. I mean, it got to the point of like we ended up being fucking head over heels for Return of the Swamp Thing because of everything that came before it.
Yeah.
And also, like,
We were grasping for anything, any kind of entertainment. It doesn't matter how bad it was. We just needed something.
So,
we
though
needed
I will
somebody
say
training
that
you
that
Electra to
breathed life into
Constantine was
us.
no walk in the park either.
Oh God.
I will say that there was something fun about when we were watching the movies and recording all together in person with the bad movies, because it was something about like us all being together and just watching this dog shit and then going down to the basement to be like, all right, let's talk about this shit for an hour and a half now.
I want to at least watch together again someday soon.
Oh, we definitely should at some point. But
I'm not gonna lie,
that's...
recording separately makes the edit easier, but watching together at least would be nice.
Oh yeah, but
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying there was like a certain feeling that was fun with some of those bad movies.
It's kind of
the
weird
silver
back to look at that
lining, if
time
you
as
will.
nostalgia.
It's weird because it was like a year ago at this point, I guess.
More that.
That
I mean,
we-
it was pre
yeah.
moving, and I
Oh,
moved over a
holy
year
shit,
ago.
yeah.
So this thing started like almost. We started
'Cause it was,
recording
like,
probably damn
summer.
near a year and a half.
It was like spring or summertime, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, damn.
I mean,
Time flies.
highlight moments. Alternatively, is I did like the run of 5 straight Batman movies, especially as an
Oh
artist
my
defender of
God.
Schumacher. And I also my favorite like in podcast moment is still me tricking you into thinking we were doing Batman when it was Return of the Swamp Thing.
I've never been more hurt in my life, Jake. So
Also a highlight was the groan.
oh yeah, Matt
If you know,
mentioned
you
that
know.
earlier was Swamp
What?
Thing groaning.
Oh God.
Keep a low profile.
Just to be positive, and any last like highlights of the journey so far before we sign off?
Nothing really. It's just
Ouch.
one thing in particular. Oh yeah, I did not phrase that correctly.
I know. I'm just messing
whatever,
with
I
you.
don't care.
Sorry, what was your one thing in particular?
I lost it.
Motherfucker,
Jesus,
that's on me.
Jake.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have messed with
Oh
them.
my God.
That's on me.
Well, some of my highlights have been finding creative ways to talk about bad movies, because it is kind of like a fun brain exercise, because it's like we gotta fill this time. You know what I mean?
You know what? I can kind of second that.
It-
I basically found new ways to say how I hate my life through this podcast. So
It's
I'll
like
share-
a creative outlet in some way.
For
Yeah.
sure.
Exactly. Like it allows me to like stretch my creative muscles. Talking about how this movie makes me want to cut my fingers off. Oh, this movie wants to make me gouge my eyes out. Oh, I'd rather be fucking scraped against sandpaper for a whole day than watch another hour of this. Like, you know, like stuff like that.
Oh yeah, and also
I
while
said
we're
what's to end on a positive
reminiscing, while we're reminiscing, I have to say that I have to go back and listen to the Blade Trinity episode, because I have zero memory of recording that episode, and I realized that today, because I was like, I was going through the list that you sent us of all the movies so I could, update my tiers and whatnot, and I was like, Blade Trinity? I was like, obviously, I remember like the movie and I remember watching it, but I was like, I have no memory of actually doing that podcast. I usually remember it.
There's fun facts throughout. But anyway, please someone interject and cut me off if you have something else to say, or if Matt remembers what I ruined. But
No, it's been ruined and it'll be forever ruined.
My life is ruined.
at this point I hear Sean yawning, so we'll sign us off with the thank you to ALO VFX for the artwork. Thank you to Jason for the podcast music.
Yes, I made the podcast music. I'm working tirelessly on music. I'm making progress. It'll be out.
Just release it, god damn it.
Well, it has to be finished.
You want to like say your ads?
It
Or you're just
hasn't
not
been
even...
finished for like 5 years.
Okay, literally it's been only like a year, but whatever. The point is, it'll be out by the end of this year. Book it.
Book it.
And at the Upsides PA on Instagram, the _Upsides PA on Twitter, the Upsides on SoundCloud, all that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to everyone who listens, everyone who follows and subscribes. Thanks to friends and family, especially as well, that listen and who've provided us feedback. We really appreciate that. It feels good to see the support. Follow Culture Illiterate on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Please do. If you listen and like it, gives me a little serotonin boost or whatever to see the follow. So please do, and please subscribe on YouTube. It's Culture Illiterate Podcast. You can follow us Twitter, Instagram. If we have a social account, it's at illiterate_pod. Reach us at cultureilliteratepod@gmail.com. If you want to give us questions or comments, feedback, you can also leave reviews on any platforms for podcasts that we're on. Once again, we're starting a new era kind of next episode with the dawn of the cinematic universe trend in Hollywood, which of course kind of began or revitalized, if you want to say, well, it began with the Universal Monsters with the first MCU installment, Iron Man. Goodbye.